In the bustling city of Havana, a man named Tony Pizza strolled down the vibrant streets, basking in the lively music and colorful culture that surrounded him. Tony Pizza, unlike his name suggested, was not your typical mobster. Known more for his humorous antics and penchant for theatrics than any actual criminal enterprise, Tony Pizza was an intriguing character who had somehow convinced people of his mobster persona. His latest escapade had taken him to Cuba, a land rich with history and tales of espionage. Tony relished his visit, especially since he had orchestrated his supposed business meetings with some notorious personalities. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Tony found himself seated in the elegant dining room of an old colonial mansion converted into a restaurant. Opposite him, with a cigar carefully balanced between his fingers, sat none other than Jack Ruby. Infamous for his controversial actions in the United States, Ruby was as enigmatic as they came. "Tony, my friend," Jack mused, exhaling a cloud of smoke into the air. "Tell me more about this pizzaverse you keep talking about." Tony leaned back, adopting his most convincing mobster stance. The pizzaverse, my dear Jack, is an expansive domain, ripe with opportunities. But, you see, it faces a threat, and I aim to make things right," he replied with a dramatic flair that left Jack momentarily puzzled yet surprisingly entertained. Later that evening, Tony found himself in another interesting meeting, this time with General Noriega, who had been visiting Cuba for undisclosed reasons. The general was a man of no nonsense, though Tony's eccentricities seemed to break through his steely exterior. "Noriega," Tony greeted him with a confident nod. "I've heard rumors. Some say you're looking for partnerships across the seas. What would you say if I offered you a share of the pizzaverse?" He tossed the words with such conviction that Noriega couldn't help but chuckle. Despite the grand tales spun and the audacious claims made over dinner tables, the reality was simple. Tony Pizza wasn't a threat to anyone but himself in his ever-elaborate fantasy. What he lacked in prowess, he compensated for with grand delusions of a pizzaverse. His theatrics in Cuba made for an unforgettable journey, filled with laughter and the kind of bluff that could only come from someone living in their own eccentric script. Even as he returned from his so-called Cuban adventure, Tony Pizza carried with him tales tall and wide. The deals struck and alliances made, none of which threatened anyone but were nonetheless invested with his unique charm. Tony Pizza, the fake mobster who journeyed to Cuba, dined with enigmatic figures and pledged fictional wars over non-existent empires, lived in a world of his creation. Always on the lookout for the next big tale to weave into his growing legend.